My name is Patrick Smith with the YouTube channel Cure for Ignorance and Gun Safe Academy in Omaha, Nebraska. I want to make this video about a number of things, mainly the Zimmerman trial. We'll tie in a lot of things into that. We're going to talk about Castle Doctrine. We're going to talk about why it's not stand your ground law, why it's not make my day law, and we'll talk about why Castle Doctrine doesn't apply to the Zimmerman case, and that's why his attorney didn't use it in the defense. Okay. We're also going to talk about the facts of the case as I understand them from researching multiple sources, including the original police report. We're going to talk about another shooting that happened in April 2009. We're also going to talk about racial profiling, and here we go. Let's talk about Castle Doctrine. Castle Doctrine was common throughout the country. 60s it kind of went away. About 12 years ago, 13 years ago, Florida brought it back. And what Castle Doctrine is, it has two main elements. The first element of Castle Doctrine is that if you are somewhere you are legally allowed to be, whether that's your house, your car, the supermarket, the movie theater, if you are not trespassing, if you are somewhere you are legally allowed to be, and someone threatens your life, you don't have to run away. You might not know this, but in Florida, a lot of people retire to Florida, a lot of older folks in Florida, and they say, why do we have to run away if someone attacks us? I can't physically run away. Why am I legally required to run away? And the legislature said, you're right, you shouldn't have to run away. You're physically enabled to do it, so no one has to run away if you're somewhere that you're legally allowed to be. The second part of Castle Doctrine is that unless you are convicted of a crime, the person who you used force against, the thug or the thug's family, cannot sue you. To kind of contrast that, Nebraska is a duty to retreat state. Nebraska, again, is where I live, where Omaha, in Omaha, Nebraska, where Gun Safe Academy is. And Nebraska is a duty to retreat state. What that means is that if someone kicks in the front door of your house and you can leave safely, you are legally required to do that. In Nebraska, the only time a private citizen can use deadly force is to prevent serious injury or death to any person. Again, to prevent serious injury or death to any person. So if someone breaks in your window, is stabbing your wife to death, you can shoot them for that. If they're done stabbing your wife and they're then climbing back out the window, you cannot shoot them for that, because at that point you're not preventing serious injury or death, you're getting revenge. And if you shoot someone as they climb back out of your house after assaulting a family member, you're going to go to prison for that in Nebraska. Okay? So, if we can only use force to prevent serious injury or death to any person, and let's say someone kicks in your front door and you could safely go out your back door and you choose not to, and you end up shooting and killing that intruder, well, you didn't shoot them to protect your life because you could have left safely, so you shot them to protect property. And in Nebraska, you can't use deadly force to protect property. And I don't disagree with that. You can use force to protect property. That's why a shoplifting security guy can drag you back into a store, or why a bouncer can throw you out of a bar. But you cannot use deadly force. Okay? The way I train my students to satisfy this duty to retreat is to not leave your house, especially in Nebraska. If you gotta break a window and climb out, obviously that's not safe. You don't know if he has a buddy outside the house, robbing your car, so getting out the back door, running that way, that's not safe. We have harsh winters here, so 3 o'clock in the morning you're jumping out the window in your boxers into the snow, that's not safe. So the way we train our students is to make a safe room, a hardened center core of a building, typically the master bedroom. You have an exterior door, a deadbolt, your firearm, your ammunition, your light, your cell phones, your landline phones, all in that one room. They kick in the front door, then you call the police. Okay? And you satisfy your duty to retreat because you are sequestered, you are locked into one room. If they can clean out the entire living room. We tell them all the time that if they take everything in your house, it's still cheaper than paying for an attorney. It's still better for you than if you shot them, because if you shoot them, you're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars on the attorney, the trial, lost work, not to mention years of life or decades of life possibly in prison for shooting this person, if it turns out that the court decided it was unjustified. But if they break in the bedroom door, it's not about the property in the house anymore. They're attacking you, and at that point, I would say shoot them. Okay? That's how we satisfy Nebraska's duty to retreat in the training courses we provide. All right, so that's what Castle Doctrine is. You don't have to retreat or someplace you're legally allowed to be. In Nebraska, even if you're not convicted of a crime, the family can still sue you, or the thug, the guy who attacked you, can still sue you, even if you're not convicted of a crime, and they can win. In Florida, who has Castle Doctrine, you must first be convicted of a crime before they can sue you for something. And this is the crux of what the Zimmerman trial was really about. It's not about justice for Trayvon. It was about opening up that entire homeowners association to millions of dollars in lawsuits by Trayvon's surviving family. This was not about justice for Trayvon. It was about money for Trayvon's family. Okay. Talking about the Zimmerman shooting and the Trayvon Martin shooting, the Zimmerman trial. And again, I'm going off of multiple sources, including the original police report. Zimmerman was working as the neighborhood watch guy for a homeowners association. They had several break-ins there recently. While doing his rounds in his truck, he saw a figure going in between houses. He called 911 saying there's a suspicious person going in between houses in this gated community. The 911 dispatcher asked him, what does the person look like? And he says he looks like he's black. Of course, when the news originally reported this, they took out the 911's question, so it just sounded like Zimmerman was racist and, oh, it's a black guy, you gotta get somebody down here. Deliberately, it seems like media sources make people out to be racist when they're not. Alright, so 911 tells him, don't get out of the truck, we have police on the way. Zimmerman got out of the truck anyway. Probably not the best move, probably should have stayed in the truck. But getting out of the truck and following Trayvon Martin was not a crime. Was not a crime. Totally legal to get out of your truck, even if 911 tells you not to. And totally legal to follow someone around on property that you're allowed to be on. He wasn't trespassing. The neighborhood association wanted him there. So totally legal to follow him around. During the course of following him around, Trayvon Martin went behind a house, came up behind Zimmerman. Martin attacked Zimmerman. Zimmerman started yelling help to the neighborhood association houses, which is not what you should be yelling. If someone's attacking you, don't yell help. Who are you talking to when you yell help? Is he trying to talk to people in the house? They actually recorded him screaming help on a 911 call that came from inside one of the houses. And the news reported that was Trayvon Martin yelling for help, but it wasn't. It was Zimmerman. At such a point where Trayvon is bashing the back of Zimmerman's head into concrete, Zimmerman drew his firearm and fired and killed Trayvon Martin. Shouldn't have gotten to that point. If Zimmerman had been more aggressive with Trayvon Martin, he probably would not have had to kill him. The number one way a gun stops someone, a bullet stops someone, is psychological. If he had drawn his firearm earlier and told Trayvon to get away from him, or to stop, or he would shoot him, Trayvon probably would have stopped and gone away and not attacked Zimmerman and not have been shot. And that would have been the best thing for everyone. Even if Trayvon Martin got away, they never arrested him for trespassing or anything else, so much the better. That's the best case scenario. Someone attacks you and you can either withdraw and get out of there and avoid the fight altogether. That's what you want. If they start to attack you, you draw your firearm, and from seeing the firearm and believing that you will shoot them by putting a little bass in your voice, and they decide to go the other direction and you don't have to fire a shot, that is ideal. That is what you want when you carry a concealed firearm. Okay. So shouldn't have gotten to the point where he needed to use deadly force, but when he shot Trayvon Martin, it was justifiable. Getting your head bashed into concrete, that's serious bodily injury. Okay. All right, and the reason that his attorney does not use Castle Doctrine, what again the news calls stand your ground law or make my day law, in order to demonize it. The reason he didn't use that at trial is because Zimmerman was not standing his ground. He was not refusing to retreat. In fact, he was advancing. He was following Trayvon Martin, and that's why Castle Doctrine doesn't apply. The only time the Castle Doctrine does apply here is they wanted to convict him in order to open up the homeowners association for millions of dollars in lawsuits. That's the only thing Castle Doctrine applies here. So when they talk about they want to repeal the stand your ground law, what they're saying there is they want to get rid of the law that says you must first be convicted of a crime before you can be sued. They want to be able to sue people who are acquitted of charges as well as those who are convicted. I don't agree with that. Castle Doctrine is good law. It's something we actually need in Nebraska. Comparing the two cases a little bit, Trayvon Martin was not an angel. He was suspended at least 3 times from school, was currently suspended from school during the period in time where he was shot. He was suspended for drug paraphernalia, for graffiti, when he was arrested by a cop for graffiti, or confronted by a police officer for the graffiti. He was found to have a lot of women's jewelry on this person that he said he was holding for a friend. Trayvon Martin was a thief, and he was a drug user, and he was, suspended for truancy. This is not an angel. This is not a good kid. Of course, there's pictures online of Trayvon Martin holding a handgun. Well, he was 17, so unless he was under immediate supervision of an adult who could legally possess that firearm, he was breaking the law by possessing that handgun. Or unless, someone under 18 can legally possess a firearm on their own if they're a member of the U.S. Armed Forces or ROTC, which I don't believe Trayvon Martin was. Let's talk about another case, 2009. Roderick Scott was a 42-year-old man living in Greece, New York. That's Greece, Greece, New York. And 3 in the morning, he heard a glass break outside of his house. He put his pistol on his hip to go out and look and see what was going on. Saw 3 individuals walking out of his driveway, going across the street to break into another neighbor's house. It was Christopher Cervini, who was 17 years old, his cousin James Cervini, and their friend Brian Hopkins. Christopher Cervini turned on Scott when he came out of the house, said something to the effect of, "I'll get him," or "I'll take care of him," moved towards Scott, and Scott shot him twice and killed him. This again happened in April 2009, and I don't believe I saw really anything about national news. I think the only way I heard about it when it happened is through a conservative news source. I look online a lot for alternate news stories, alternate sources. I think it's the only, reading both, typically you can kind of meld together what actually happened, because no news source is unbiased. What differs from this shooting and the Trayvon Martin shooting is that Roderick Scott was a 42-year-old black man, and Christopher Cervini was a 17-year-old white man. So you get a 17-year-old white kid killed by a 42-year-old black man, and that didn't make national news. Now, Christopher Cervini was not an angel either. Him and his friends, he was legally drunk when he was shot and killed on gin they had stolen earlier in the night. He had amphetamines and marijuana in his system, and again was breaking into cars. So again, not an angel. Although his family said that he was an angel and said the whole thing was injustice. As another side note here, I don't remember President Obama going on national news and pointing to Christopher Cervini and saying, "That could have been me 35 years ago." I find that interesting. Let's talk about profiling a little bit. They went through inordinate lengths in the Zimmerman trial to say that he's not a cop, he's not a cop, he's not a cop. He shouldn't have been doing this. He's a wannabe cop. He's not a cop. Now, I've trained security guards for a long time. I shot in competition with police officers. I have a lot of friends who are police officers. I managed armed security officers, about 15 to 20, for about 2 or 3 years. I'm familiar with the business of security. I'm familiar with the job duties of police officers. My father was a police officer for a great number of years. That's the thing. So they said he's not a cop. Now afterwards, since they didn't get him convicted at the state level, they're trying to file federal charges in order to find him guilty of racial profiling. To let you know, the Rodney King beating, the cops were acquitted at state, charged with federal crimes, and were found guilty of an 8th Amendment violation and went to prison for that. The difference there is that they were cops, and as we just established, George Zimmerman is not a cop. Look at the definition of racial profiling. It's the using a person's race or ethnicity as the primary means by law enforcement to decide whether or not they will enforce a law. Racial profiling only applies to law enforcement, and you just spent a year telling us that Zimmerman is not a law enforcement officer. I don't see that going anywhere. Talk about profiling a little bit. Profiling is not racist. It is not evil. Profiling is good police science. What profiling does is it cannot predict what you will do in the future, but it can accurately predict what someone has done in the past. What I mean by that is that you don't all of a sudden wake up and become a murdering rapist. Okay? there are steps to that. So if you have someone who's breaking into houses and who is raping and murdering women, you look for someone who's been found guilty of burglarizing houses and stealing things like women's undergarments. You look for people who were found guilty of peeping Tom. You look at people who were found guilty of torturing small animals. Because those are the steps that people take before they start breaking into homes, raping and murdering women. You go through these steps. And the way we know that is everyone we have ever caught who broke into houses and raped and murdered women did these steps before. So if you have a neighborhood houses are broken into and women are being raped and then murdered, you look in the neighborhood, the surrounding area, for anyone who's been found guilty of peeping Tom or burglary or torturing small animals, and you're probably going to find your guy. To use another example, if you're looking for someone who's possibly going to take over an aircraft, hijack an aircraft, and try to crash it into, say, a building, the way you develop a profile for that kind of person is you look at everyone you've ever caught who did that. Everyone you've ever caught who hijacked an aircraft and crashed into a building, and you don't come up with retired veterans going to World War II monuments. You don't come up with nuns. You don't find probable cause to search 2-year-olds' diapers for bombs. You don't find probable cause to make men and women alike strip half naked every time they want to board a plane. You don't find probable cause to microwave everyone in order to take a supposedly low radiation picture of what they might have under their garments. You don't have probable cause for that. You look at anybody who's ever done this crime, and you look at everyone we've caught doing this crime. If you want to find someone who's hijacking aircraft, the profile for that, again, that's everyone we've ever caught who's done that, is a Muslim male between 18 and 35, usually from Saudi Arabia, traveling one way with little or no luggage. That's the profile, because everyone we've ever caught who does this, that's who they were. And that's not racist, that's profiling, and that's good police science. So in summary, Castle Doctrine, 2 elements. Don't have to retreat if you're somewhere you're legally allowed to be, and if you must first be found guilty of a crime before you can be sued. Zimmerman, when he got to the point where he shot Trayvon Martin, the shooting was justified, and he didn't break any laws before he got to that point. Roderick Scott, again, justifiable shooting. Again, when he got to the point where the kid was attacking him, that's justifiable. Okay, I hold nothing against Roderick Scott. It's the exact same case, just with the races reversed. Okay, and profiling is not racist. It's good police science. So I hope that this is the last video you feel you need to watch about the Zimmerman trial. Okay. If you have any questions, you have any comments, put them below. I imagine this video might generate some comments about racial profiling, about racism in general. Another side note, I mean, Jesse Jackson, when he started his career as a young man, there was a need for him. Anymore, the man seems like he's trying to keep racism alive than he's trying to solve anything. Al Sharpton, same thing. Okay, I'm a white guy, and I don't feel sorry for that. But you know, just by looking at me, I look like a white guy, and I'm a good chunk German and a number of other things. But I'm also a quarter Native American, and it's funny to me when I talk to people that are Hispanic, and they start they're joking with me, saying that I must be racist because I'm white, and I tell them, oh, actually, I'm a quarter Native American. My dad's half, and their entire attitude changes, and I mock them for that. Because you can't call someone a racist and then 2 minutes later treat them differently because you find out their race is something you didn't know it was. Martin Luther King says that we should judge people not on the color of their skin but on the content of their character. And that's what I do. That's what the majority of Americans do. We are the most tolerant country in the nation, most tolerant country in the world, by far. All right. Thank you very much for watching. Again, if you have comments about racial profiling, about profiling in general, about the Zimmerman case, about the Scott case, about Israeli aircraft, put them below. I'm not going to get into long, drawn-out arguments down below, but I will answer your questions as best I can. Thank you very much for watching, and all right, thank you.